Good morning. Today is June 2nd, 2026, and this is the City of Prescott City Council Subcommittee on Water Issues. Roll call, please.
Chair Rusing.
Here.
Member Fruworth.
Here.
Member Gearing.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. Next item.
Approval of the April 7th, 2026 Council Subcommittee on Water Issues meeting minutes.
Your motion.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second. Please vote.
Passes 3-0.
Thank you. Next item.
Presentation and discussion regarding the amended 2022 water management policy, current residential and non-residential water budget overview for January 1st, 2026 through May 15th, 2026.
Oh, good morning, Water Issues Subcommittee. I'm Brian Reese. I'm the Water Resources Manager here for the city in community development. So the amended 2022 water policy guidelines 11 through 13 establishes a semi-annual water budget for residential and non-residential projects. So today we'll be reporting on those up to the date of June 30th. So the budget was set on January 1st, 2026 through June 30, 2026 for residential projects at 25 acre feet. And it was also set for non-residential projects for 25 acre feet. Table up on the screens right now shows the non-residential water budget tracking. So between January 1st and May 15th of this year, 2 residential projects were approved by council. These projects were the Lakeview Plaza 82-unit multifamily development and the Embry-Riddle modular dorm development, totaling 11.08 acre feet per year. The remaining water budget for the residential budget was 13.92 acre feet per year. So, and I did receive a question about the Lakeview Plaza from Water Issues Subcommittee member Fruworth, asking me if this was the Water Cooper development. And yes, it is the Water Cooper development. So I have I asked our planning department if they had any information about the status of that state funding. I think it was for a workforce housing grant or something of that nature. They were looking into it. They had not received any word from Water Cooper at that point in time about the actual status or asking for additional information. So we're checking with that applicant right now, and we'll provide information on their status as soon as we get it. Okay, moving forward, our non-residential projects. So from the same period, from January 1st through May 15th, there was a total of 9 non-residential projects that were approved administratively. And then the Prescott Plaza Hotel was approved, went through this, the Water Issues Subcommittee, and was approved through council. The total water for those projects was 7.56 acre feet per year. So that left a total remaining non-residential budget at this time of 17.44 acre feet. And I just wanted to point out that there was also, as you can see on the table, deep well commercial development was approved through Water Issues and through council for 27.9 acre feet. Per current water policy, we don't remove that water from the budget, so it was not reflected in the final budget numbers, but just to understand that water was approved in that time period. And then the last table we have is our existing contracts. Same time period through May 15th, there was 9 projects that were approved under existing contracts. 7 of them were single-family homes, but there was one, the 80-unit South Ranch Phase 1B subdivision, and its associated amenities buildings were the bigger uses that were tracked here. So on the amenity building, the last on row number 9 there, that has an address of, that's not correct. That address is for the, is it the Thank you. The Granite Dells Estates amenity building. We used that building to compare for water usage to the new Deep Well building, and it was accidentally transferred. The address was accidentally transferred from that building to that one. The actual address is 1221 Wood Chute Road, and just for verification, that is for the new Deep Well amenity building associated with the South Ranch 1B subdivision.
Brian,
And-
what exactly does that mean, amenity building? Is that like a clubhouse?
Yeah, I think it's like a clubhouse. Yeah, exactly,
Is there a
exactly.
swimming pool with it?
Yes, there is.
Oh, boy.
Yep. So, and so yeah, sorry for the confusion on that. That is for the new Deep Well building, not for the existing building there. So with that, that was just a quick rundown of what's happened for the water budget for this year. If there are any questions?
Yes, well, Jim has it. You go first. You're up to bat.
Okay, thank you. Brian, going back to Lakeview Plaza, my recollection is we had talked about the possibility of getting xeriscaping, landscaping for that. Can you tell me what the status of that might be?
At this point, we can make recommendations and requests and suggestions to the developer on the landscaping. But in reality, I think our landscaping code is what governs in terms of that. We already have in landscape code that they have to utilize the drought tolerant plants from the fifth management plan. I think other than our suggestions and hoping that they'll look into it and make sure that they use as water drought tolerant plants as possible, I think we're kind of restricted to our landscape code at this point in time.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was going to ask, are there any pending large projects coming in down the pipeline in the next couple of months that you know of?
Well, we got there in our very next item.
talk about
Yeah,
that.
I got a couple
Okay.
tables, and we
Okay.
can kind of go over it if that makes
All right.
sense.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Item C, presentation discussion regarding the July 2026 through December 2026 residential and non-residential water budgets in accordance with the amended 2022 Water Management Policy Guideline number 11.
Okay. Yeah. So this is our annual setting of our residential and non-residential budget. As Tori just talked about, we have to do this in June and December of each year. So. Quick background information. These are the guidelines from our water policy. Guideline number 11 states the council should set the water budget semi-annually at the last meeting in June and December of each year. And guideline number 12 sets the residential water budget. Guideline number 13 sets the non-residential budget. In order to help the committee understand the water use from our previous budget cycle, this is just a quick summary table that basically has basically the same information we just covered in the last presentation item. But for residential budget, the budget was set at 25 acre feet. And then we show that we did not have any administrative approvals. It was a very quiet period for that. That's the first time I think I remember that happening. Council approval, 11.08 acre feet was approved. So total residential approvals amounted to 11.08 acre feet. There was basically at this point, we had 13.92 acre feet left in the budget for this period. So that accounted for, we used about 44% of the water budget in our first period, in our this first half of the year. Non-residential budget, again, 25 acre feet was set. Administrative approvals, less than 1.5 acre feet per water policy came out to 2.06. And council approved items came out to 5.5. Total non-residential approvals came out to 7.56 for the first 6 months of the year. Remaining water in the budget, 17.44. I believe that was about 30%. So we used about 30% of the budget for that period. Again, just as a qualifier, we did have the commercial, the deep well commercial at 27.9 acre feet in that period that came out. So then the next couple of tables, we tried to prepare some tables to show what projects may be coming in over this next period. I do like to emphasize that this is our best guess. These are based a lot on the PAC applications. Planning staff also will provide water resources with information about if they know of any large projects or complicated water projects that are coming in. I don't recall any of those for this time period that I really recall, other than what's just on this table here. But so what's on the table really is based on PACs. We took the older PACs off because they would probably have to come in for a PAC anyway, so we removed those. These are the more newer ones that we have, or they were from last year that we think still has a chance coming in. These are not all our PAC applications. We have a lot more, but these are the ones that had more significant water use. And then, so just reflecting as I put these tables together, when I say expected range, super guess on my part, is I'm taking like 25 to 50% of what's coming in from what we're showing on the PACs. And it's usually falling in that range. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just to try to give you an idea of what we might be seeing. So yeah, these are the potential residential projects. As you can see, Prescott Granite Dell 63 lot subdivision is one of some significance there. We got some multifamily buildings that might come in for 4 or 5 acre feet of water, and that Granite Creek Village came in with the PAC. Again, it's getting kind of old now, back in 2025 with 7 acre feet. So kind of anticipating probably, again, something very similar, I'm thinking, to what we saw in the first period, somewhere between 12, maybe we get close to 20, 22 acre feet of water.
Lois?
Thank you, Mayor. Question, I didn't get a chance to pull up the GIS to try and find where Timber Heights is. Do you have a concept of that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Will West, Operations Manager for Community Development. The Timber Heights proposal has come into our PAC about 4 or 5 times over the last few years, and this is just south of Timber Ridge.
Yeah, that's the one off of Sheriff's Posse Road.
Yeah, correct. So to access this site, you would go down Sheriff's Posse. There's a small county island they would cross through, and then into some city land there.
Yeah. And I might add that pretty much all these projects are going to be approved administratively as far as the site plans and the preliminary plats. And none of these projects are going to be going to planning and zoning or city council. It's all just going to be water issue subcommittee. Chelsea?
Thank you, Mayor. Chelsea Walton, Community Development Director. So some of them may, but in reference to Timber Heights, that one may also include an annexation, and that would have to go through the full process. And then if any of these required a rezoning, that would be through the regular P&Z council process. And then if there were any master plans associated, master plan amendments or new master plans, those would go through council. I think each of those, there might be a handful on this, that may require one or more of those processes.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then similarly for non-residential projects, we put together this list of PAC projects that we've seen over the last year and a half. And again, best guess, but seems like maybe fairly slow based on the packs for non-residential at this point. Maybe we see 10 acre feet of water. Again, it just needs one project that comes in and can blow this all out of the water, but best information that we can give you at this point in time. So yes, at this point, Water Issue Subcommittee can kind of discuss amongst themselves or ask questions, but the point of the agenda item is to go ahead and set the budget for our next 6-month period. So if you have any other questions or anything, I'd be happy to try to answer.
So we only had one appeal the last 6 months?
Yeah.
It was for the Power Center, Depot Ranch?
For the Deep Well Ranch Commercial Center, yep.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Shall we have a discussion as to whether we want to keep 25 and 25 for residential and non-residential? Do we want to decrease it, increase it? Any rationale? Okay. You want to say it?
Sorry, I said I would say stay flat at 25-25.
Just no changes, continue on. That seems to be doing pretty well over the years. Mr. Gehring?
I agree with Councilmember Fruworth.
Yeah. And I agree too. We'll just keep it the same, 25-25. And we're not taking a vote. It's just a recommendation.
You can, I think you want to,
Yeah, you'll still want to do a vote as to what this committee is recommending to council. Council will be
Okay.
the one that officially approves.
So I move to forward a recommendation to council for 25-25 for the next period's budget.
Second, please vote.
Passes 3-0. Next item D, presentation and discussion regarding a progress report for the long-term water management plan.
Good morning, Subcommittee. Leslie Grazer, Water Resource Project Manager. I'll just run you through, once again, a few slides. Once I have the right pointer. There's like 3 here. It's okay. What we've done, just to catch up, the presentations you've had in the past, we were really focused on data that we were collecting and assimilating it and producing results. This one, we're going to look a little bit more at the contents of the report, or maybe the documents that will house some of the work that we've done that will be part of the plan itself. So I'll give you the project updates real quick. As you recall, it's 3 consultants are working on this project. Herb Dishlip Consulting, who is working on the supply-demand projections. Carollo Engineering, who is focusing on the infrastructure, stormwater. They're going to compile the report for us. Matrix New World is our hydrology and groundwater modeling team on this project. And then, let's see, the infrastructure element, the Carollo, they were placed in the contract January 2026, and at this time, the city continues to compile some requested data for their work. This is a little bit of a dated slide, I would say, because we were going to present this last month to you. So the update on that would be most of the data has moved that Carollo needs, but they are waiting on the technical memos, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So that's the contracted work piece of the slide. The grant progress report. So as you recall, the city sought a U.S. Bureau of Reclamation grant for this project. And the idea was it was being kept fairly small. So we asked for about $40,000, and the requirement was that we matched $40,000 or so. Then the city brought forward their long-term, or their strategic plan for 2025 to 2029 that expanded what was going to happen within this long-term management plan. But the important part, let's get back to the grant, is I'm just making that comparison, is that we started with a very small project, awarded the grant, we started working, and then we had an expansion, and then we added on more consultants, which required more money. So it's quite a project. But with the grant, we filed the third progress report in April. We have been reimbursed entirely so far, the $40,000. So everything that they were going to provide us has been provided because we've been working since 2024. And we have also met our requirement on the money side as well. However, the project has to come together and close. So there'll be more work. There'll be another progress report, and then there'll be a final closeout report related to the grant. Moving on to the outreach piece, you're probably aware we have 5 information sheets that are out related to this project. The last one was the water resource management model itself, to explain the tool that we're using to house all this data. And that was published in April, went up onto the websites and other places. It's going to the farmers market. It's going to wherever, we have public outreach happening. The Yavapai County Contractors Association big event that they have at the other Prescott Valley's Event Center. So there's more on that outreach on slide 9, so I won't stay there any longer on that topic. And then today, technical memos. We're going to focus on those. So the first technical memo that you've seen most of this already. We brought forth the data on the supply and the demand. We've made it into an information sheet. And then what it does is if you have good supply demand numbers, point number 3 on the slide here, the better that data is, the more informative your 10, 25, and 50-year projections can be. So on the right-hand side, that's some of the data. I'm just trying to refresh your memory a little bit about what you've seen so far. So bottom line is that we would like to have a completion date. We wanted to have this technical memo done April, May 2026. I think we're obviously in June. All the pieces are there, but it needs to be written up complete with the legal aspects in there, and then we're able to turn that over to Carollo. Not only Carollo, we're going to turn that over to a review committee, and this is part of what Councilman Fruworth had asked in the past of, when do we get documentation on various things that you've done and how you've compiled things. So we'll be able to share these as they finalize or are in a very close to final draft. Moving on, technical memo 2. Just like the first technical memo, this is a collaboration where Herb Dishlip Consulting and the city are both working to make sure we have this right. We estimated April, May. On this one as well, it's going to be more like June. For some reason, I'm looking at this slide, and I was pretty sure I updated this, so I'm not sure if I have the right slide set that was loaded for me. Yeah, I don't think it. So I'm like, I fixed that. So my hard copy shows May, June is where we're going to be, being that we're now presenting this to you in June. Although there is a long-term management plan information sheet in the model, that was solely the tool. So we're going to see additional information sheets related to the projections, which will be important. And last, let's see. We had talked.
Mr. Gehring?
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Excuse me.
Leslie, I have a question on the water resource management model.
Yes.
Does that dovetail with the groundwater flow model that we've been waiting for 8 or 9 years?
No, that is actually a different project altogether. So the water resource management model is the city's supply and demands, our future projection model. The one you're thinking of is related to our comprehensive agreement number 1 with SRP, and that is a groundwater flow model. But this is a good time to make a point, is that this project will have its own groundwater flow model that is focused on the active management area. It will not have the Big Chino component in this phase 1. So I'm going to probably get to that in a couple more slides, but it's a good point.
Yeah.
And not to
Okay.
get, we have, like, water resource management model is an Excel-based, basically, GIS features kind of model. And then we have like a mod flow model, which is a groundwater flow model using 3D, higher math, a lot more going on there.
A good point, Jim. I was wondering the same thing. What is the name now that we call that modeling program that involves, the groundwater flow of the Big Chino plus the Little Chino that's been going on for 8 years?
So, yeah, and most of the contract,
Changed names.
in the contracts, we call it the Big Chino Subbasin Groundwater Flow Model.
But what's the name of the company now that's doing it?
Oh, that's working on it?
Engineering company.
Oh, okay, so we had WSP, but it's moved on to our own consultants of Matrix New World Engineering, which represents the city and Prescott Valley.
Okay.
And then Spiros is now the new name of Leonard Rice Engineer, or LRE Water. It's kind of gets crazy. So, and they represent SRP's interests. So the model that you're asking about, and we have to be careful, we're moving kind of off agenda here.
Right.
That is handled by Matrix and Spiros now. It's called the Big Chino Subbasin Groundwater Flow Model, which is not part of this project that we're talking about today.
Okay. I was just asking for some clarification to keep the two studies
Yes.
separate and trying to get some terminology to describe them. So I'd just say Spheros and New Matrix.
Yeah, there you go.
I remember.
Comprehensive Agreement Number 1 model.
Yeah.
Separate project. Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you.
Sure. Let's see. So with these projections, you had seen the work that we did about obligations. So you'd seen maps that showed green dots of what we currently served and then a whole bunch of blue dots. And that's what you had under contract. So we've done a lot of cleaning with the obligations that lead to a better projection starting point. I'm trying to think, there was something else that was important here. I'm going to keep moving. If it occurs to me, I'll back up. Okay, so the next technical memo that will be part of the long-term management plan is the water demand management practices, or AKA conservation. This is a work that's being prepared by the city. It'll include the conservation history, conservation measures, your rebate program, kind of, how much saturation have you had with that program, your gallons per capita per day, and more. So we're working on this. This technical memo requires us having the rebate program tracking system that was moved to a new platform finalized, so we can pull some of the data that our consultant needs for that and for this technical memo itself. So here is, I guess, another point 3 is that we're trying to keep expectations managed here a little bit. You probably recall we had the long-term management plan. When we brought Carollo on, it was decided that we're going to have a phase 1, phase 2. So right now, the long-term management plan, phase 1, will investigate the potential to meet demands without the addition of future water resources. So we're going to be really looking at focusing on the aquifer, the Little Chino that we pump from. We're not going to be looking at the Big Chino or advanced water purification or things like that in phase 1. So I'm bringing that to your attention so you start hearing it now versus at the end. Doesn't mean it won't be done. It's just that your project has become much larger than it was originally under the BOR grant. Technical Memo 4, this is where we get into the fun science that I really like, this part too. So this is done by Matrix New World. This is where we will have a groundwater flow model that is focused on the map area that you see on the right. This is a draft example, so we want very clear visuals to show, where the city is. That would be the yellow. We have Chino Valley kind of up in the peach there. Of course, we know that our water service area and our pumping, our water service area extends up into Chino Valley. Our pumping is derived from that area. It's also derived from the airport area. We have our neighbors to the east of us, Prescott Valley, who are also have wells in the ground pumping water for their communities. And what we really want to see with this groundwater flow model, and this is where it differs from the other one that you'd asked me about, is the Prescott AMA model has been around since 1997, and it's been updated multiple times by the department. Our consultants on this groundwater flow model have been with us a long time, with the city, a long time. And so what we're going to be doing is taking the information from Tech Memo 1 and 2, but mostly, well, actually both of them, and we need to feed that over to the groundwater modeling consultant so that they have the supplies, the demands, and they place those onto the model and see how it behaves, what it tells us in those time horizons of 10, 25, and 50 years. So,
Mayor.
Yes, Jim.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Leslie had a question. I helped guide a groundwater model on the central coast of California some years back. And in order to do a good, accurate model, we had data which showed what the bottom of the water-bearing structures were. And that model had something like 9 layers, and we knew the specific yield of each layer. Do we have that kind of information on the management area?
for the management area, it's a 2 aquifer system. They know the horizons, you know, the thicknesses of those units, and they know where bedrock's at. So we won't have as many layers as your area, just different geology. But we have an upper alluvial, a lower volcanic, and those will be modeled. And we'll know where the where we're pumping from for the city. Our wells are gonna be assigned into the lower volcanics because that's where they were drilled to. If we're having activity from exempt wells, they're gonna be probably more pumping from the upper alluvial.
So essentially, we believe that below the volcanics is water bearing? Okay, thank you.
Yep, sure. Okay, let me catch up let's see if point 3 was really salient here. A tech memo will help the water customers and the regional partners understand hydrogeologic conditions and the effects of future pumping associated with the city's demands. So, this is kind of the piece that, I would say in my career, I've been waiting for. You can't just run your numbers, supply and demand on spreadsheets. You got to test them against the aquifer. And we have some basics of that we do through our decision order of assured water supply. That's a requirement of that project. So I won't go too far into that project because it's not on agenda. But this one is where we really look at what do we look like in 10, 25, and 50 years and put in, more than what the regulatory requirements call for. It gives us a much better picture for management into the future to do this.
So you're trying to predict future growth requirements?
Effects on the aquifer from future growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Chino Valley, as you can see, has annexed a massive amount of property, and we supply water to them. I assume, is it capped? How much, do you have an IGA as how much water we supply to them, or are we obligated to supply water as they grow, rather than them building their own supply system?
Right now, that goes back to our obligation discussions that we are compiling those kind of in their final lap around the track. But for the Chino Valley area, the city has some very historic agreements that predate the Chino Valley Irrigation District, which was 1998. So you serve Chino Meadows, so you've serve some little pockets that were prior to 1998. Then you have your 1998 Chino Valley Irrigation District IGA, and that covers a fair amount of land. And then I believe it was 22 where you entered into another agreement for their commercial corridor.
Yeah, the 4 linear miles along 80.
Along the highway
89,
there.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's the extent, unless the city decides they're going to engage in additional contracts out there.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so technical memo 5, because we are looking at this in a phase 1 manner, the work is going to be prepared by Matrix New World, and we were anticipating this, and I apologize, these slides, I don't know why we have the wrong ones loaded. And I looked at this morning. You do? Yes. Oh. I'm relieved. It's just then what's on the screen was the wrong, okay, load. It just messes with you a little bit sometimes when you're a person like me where I'm like, it's not right. It's okay. We'll be fine. So point one, looking at that, let me catch up to myself here. So more so early July, and I wanted to explain this one and the last technical memo a little bit more. Until we have technical memos 1 and 2 done, those are the 2 key items that have to go to the other 2 consultants. So Carollo can start doing flow projections and run that on the infrastructure side, and Matrix can run it on the groundwater flow model. So that's why the timetable looks like it does. And then Big Chino, we're not running any modeling up there. We're just looking for a broad summary of the hydrogeology and the basis and the basin, looking at this, the city's property out there, which is the kind of the black hatched. Let's see if I can, right in there. That's where the actual property is. The pink is the aquifer itself. So a 2024 baseline water level map and hydrographs will be selected from selected wells will be provided. And the caveat that Councilman Gehring, is important, that neither this technical memo nor the long-term management plan will include groundwater flow modeling on this basin at this time. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, we are in the home stretch. Technical Memo 6 is an option that we have in the contract to pull together our outreach piece. So you might recall there was some basic outreach in the grant. The council strategic plan wanted a more robust outreach plan because the intent was originally to look at future supply types. But as I said, once the infrastructure piece came in, Public Works worked through that, got it into a contract. The decision was that there would be a phase 1 and phase 2. So to have a real robust discussion about future water supplies with the community, I think that would be best stated in point 3. So the stakeholder engagement and outreach was envisioned in the BOR grant and then extended by the council strategic plan. Subsequent decisions were made to focus on the long-term management plan into a phase 1 and phase 2 as part of the Carollo contracting. It appears to have led to stakeholder engagement being more conducive as part of phase 2. And this is because we'll have more information at that time, and that's where you start talking more with your community about, what future water supplies are you going to really dig into and invest in? Are you going to really talk about Big Chino importation? Are you going to talk about advanced water purification? Are you going to look at some other things that might be coming down the pipe that we see over time?
Leslie, is this plan going to address the overdraft? Is it going to consider that as one of the variables in their
It will
algorithms?
reflect what overdraft will happen within the aquifer when the city pumps with the projections that they're putting together. And it should tie in some of the other existing information as well. So the Prescott AMA model also has the certificates of assured water supply that the other communities are holding as well. So it will be a discussion that is very warranted, is if you continue to grow on your current supply, what kind of effects may happen to the aquifer, and what do you want to do? You want to just keep going with that, or do you want to make some different decisions, and at what time horizons?
And what about affecting the flow of the Verde River? Is that going to be considered too? Because SRP is very concerned about protecting the flow of the Verde River. Are we going to put that in as part of the analysis?
Let me kind of follow up with you once we have this data moving into Matrix and give you, I think, a fair answer versus one off the cuff. Let me see how this progresses a little bit more. But to your question related to the Verde, the Prescott AMA model does know and has to account or calculate for outflows that move towards the Verde.
Okay. And then my last question is, are we going to share the results of this study with everybody? We're going to post it online? Is it going to be available to the public.
Yeah, and we're working,
Okay.
I'm trying to work pretty hard with our information sheets of just, it's gonna, if you gave it to somebody all in bulk, it would be a lot. So we're trying to just step through and give these information sheets that keep those who are interested up to date, that, we've been compiling and cataloging and bringing all this together in some basic 4-page information sheets. And then, of course, the final report it's a public document.
Because it's very comprehensive, and it looks like it's grown a lot more in its complications, but I think that's a good thing. If we're going to do the study, include as much data as we can. Lois?
Thank you, Mayor. My question was in relation to the decision to focus as a phase 1 and a phase 2 in contracting with Corolla. There's already political action committees out there telling stories, and I'm just trying to understand when our phase 1 and phase 2 stories are going to be hitting the public, because others are speaking on our behalf right now.
Maybe we can talk to you about that after the meeting and understand a little bit more what's going on.
But what's the timing for phase 1 and phase 2? Because now you've said it's conducive to be engaging the stakeholders and the public as part of phase 2. And I'm just trying to get a year.
So right. So, from the get-go, we were trying to meet the deadlines. Our BOR grant had us set to be done December 2026. The council strategic plan puts us into July 27. So we've been trying to work very hard. I don't know. I would leave that up to the water resource manager to decide if we have a firm date that we were going to give today. Our goal is we keep pressing to get it done on time. And on time will be phase 1, because that for December of 2026, the end of this year, because of decisions that were made about breaking it into a phase 1 and phase 2 back in late 2025, and then Corolla being contracted in 2026.
So who made the decision to break this out and delay this and put things into a phase 2? I'm really not clear.
Decision was made by Water Resources. It was made by our, we discussed it with our department heads, myself, with our consultant. What we were looking at is we had a budget. We had a grant to start off with, and it had a budget associated with that. We're looking at the council strategic plan and other aspects that were asked to be into the plan. The budget grew by about 3 times, but the city had that budget. And then looking at doing an advance analysis of all water supplies, because we had said from the get-go that we're going to look at Big Chino, but we're going to look at all the other alternatives that the city could go with in terms of bringing water supplies in the future, advanced water supply, extension of sewer systems in order to get more reclaimed water back, different ways we could use our surface water sources, storm water. That grew that budget to where it was going to be above and beyond what the budget that we had set for the project. At that point, it was determined we need to come back with a phase 2. When we have another fiscal budget year, we can allocate more money for that more detailed analysis of the additional water supplies. And it just seemed like a logical thing to break down into phase 1, what our budget could account for in terms of getting our demands, our obligations, understanding demand management strategies that we think are going to be key for the first 10 years for the city as we move forward, and get those things understood, get them developed into a study at this point in time, and then move into a phase 2 where we tackle the additional water sources.
So if council wasn't involved in that decision to make it into phase 1 and phase 2, we're in the middle of the budget right now. I would like to know what is in the budget for fiscal year 27. Are we starting phase 2 or are we still in phase 1?
So I'd have to look at the budget numbers. I have to get back to you on that.
I don't want to
right now,
miss an opportunity with a deadline ahead of us in the next few weeks to understand exactly what council is funding and going to get. Because right now, as I said, others are out there with videos and all sorts of things telling our water story. And I'm like, we should be telling our water story. So I want to know clearly what we're funding and if we're going to be in the decision seat of what is being done, or are these going to continue to be staff decisions and we're left not understanding?
So we can get you those numbers. Looking at the time period, I know for the next fiscal budget, I know we have money for the long-term water management plan for all of our consultants included in that. I just don't have the exact values in front of me at this point in time, but I can get those to you. But yes, we have been budgeting to continue this project moving forward through phase 1 and into phase 2, based on the timeframes of the fiscal year budgets.
We have meetings next week. Can we get an update by the end of this week in writing?
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
I was under the impression that these studies were all going to be funded by grants, but now we're finding out that we're going to have to pay for them, this expansion ourselves. It kind of started off as this was a grant, and now it's ballooned into several other consultants jumping on, and now we're going to have to, the city of Prescott taxpayers are going to have to bear the burden of a study that's regional now, pretty much.
The study is not regional.
No.
The study is to figure out what the demands and the supplies that the city have and project out for the next 50 years what the city should be doing and what should be thinking about in terms of its water supply. It started off, there was a grant available, $40,000 match, that was $80,000. When we started looking at the scoping of what the city would need to do in order to actually figure out what it has to do in the next 50 years, $80,000 budget was not going to get us a study that was going to be comprehensive enough to give us an understanding of that. So the budget was increased when we increased the scoping on it to add other components into it. And that's where we're sitting at this point.
Do we have a number?
Well,
Is it in the 5-year CIP?
yes. Oh, no, it's not in this. It's not a CIP study. So it's within the water resources management budget. I want to say that the budget number, I have to, let me look at the number and get it right to you so that I
Alrighty.
can give you an exact number and we're not just guessing at this
Yes.
point in time.
Yeah.
But I can write it up and I can let you know exactly what the budgeting is that we have in place at this point through our contracts and what we have budget through going into our next fiscal year. And that way you understand those numbers.
Okay.
So,
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Brian, I really have kind of a big picture question for you. It seems to me with a management area overdraft in the neighborhood of 20,000 acre feet, that well levels all over the management area are going to continue to drop unless the exempt wells and the small communities that don't have sewers, unless they change their ways. Is that kind of thinking being included in this study?
So with this study, what we were trying to do is we're trying to establish the demands and the supplies that the city has and get a very good understanding what our projected demands are over the next 50 years, understand our growth, how it's going to play out in the next 10 years, 25 years, 50 years based on the trends, based on getting with our various departments on planning and economic development so we could understand the city's vision over that period and put together in the water resource management model the best understanding of that projected demand over that time period. Understand our infrastructure needs, understand what we can do from a demand management standpoint, and pretty much put together a plan that says this is what the city's going to look like in the next 50 years. This is the growth that's going to happen. These are the needs. This is how we get that water to it. Once we get that information from the city standpoint, we are then able to go to our regional partners and we can talk to them because we understand what the city, we understand what our needs are, we understand what our plan is, what our strategies are. Then we can move forward with the other active management members and say, okay, now let's work together. We know what we need to do from our end standpoint. What do you need to do from your standpoint? Now let's work together. Let's get something that merges so that we're all taking care of the overall active management area needs. But until the city understands where it's going and what its projected plan is, it's very hard for us to provide useful information towards that total solution. And I encourage all the other entities to do the same thing. Get your plan in order. Understand what your development is going to be. Understand what your needs are going to be. Then let's all get together and talk about how we can effectively find a solution for the whole MA. That's really been the plan moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Chelsea?
Hi, Chelsea again. Wanted to let you know, relative to the budget questions, we're going to do some digging and get you what is included in the upcoming budget. But pursuant to staff's presentation last November at the council study session, we had included about $250,000 in the FY26 budget. So this isn't something that was grant funded. We got the 40,000 grant that we matched with 40, so that was the 80 total, but we had already included budget monies FY26 for this, for the expansion of this project. So we'll get you what that was expanded to for FY27, but just wanted to clarify that point. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Chelsea.
So that was my last slide. I moved to the closer here. Overall, all good questions, and we appreciate your time in explaining to us how you're seeing the project, and we have our heads down working on this project to bring it all together. But I think it's important to use this thought process in our water resource management is that we're trying to get on that first stair step, and you need that to be able to do future planning, and then we'll have phase 1, phase 2, your second stair step. And part of the reasoning that you have this is that you kind of diverged. There was a divergence in how the city was operating their water management about 8 years ago. So if you hadn't kept, or you're playing a little catch up, it's not a bad thing. But we're working very hard to give you what this size community needs in water management. And we're going to have to get on those first 2 stair steps, and then we can continue on. I wanted to address Mr. Gehring's question as well, Councilman Gehring, is that, related to the aquifer, that's exactly what this study's doing. We have the Matrix New World contract, and they will be running our numbers on a groundwater flow model so we can visualize what additional demand looks like when you place it on the aquifer, which we kind of know what it might do, but there's a lot of intricacies related to how much recharge do you get too? If you just run a model only showing your demands on your pumping, if you only show pumping, you're not getting the whole picture. So we are doing the whole picture: recharge, recovery, pumping, the whole thing.
I have a question. It sounds like one of the solutions that's going to be explored, you say reclaimed water, which is basically the what they're doing down in the valley. They're going to start doing reclaimed water, which is used to be called sewer to tap, where we're drinking treated sewage. How does that affect our recharge if we're not? I assume we're not going to be recharging it if we're going to be reusing it.
We won't be having that discussion in phase 1, but phase 2 is where we're looking at those future water supplies and how they might be engaged by this community. So you're absolutely right. The metropolitan area, Phoenix Metropolitan, is looking at advanced water purification. Here, what we do now is we bring our wastewater back, we clean it up. It's reclaimed water at that point. We send it over to our recharge facility to help recharge the aquifer. We also send it over direct delivery. So there's, a lot. if you give us a little bit more time, we'll try to put all those pictures into place so that, we all have a better understanding of our water operations at the city.
It's a very expensive project, very expensive, costly to do that.
Right. And this won't be the first time in the city's history they've had to make decisions on future water supplies. We'll have that in this project too, where we're looking at decision after decision. If you read the city's history, there comes a point where councils and the customers, our community has to decide, which way we're going to go next. And we only do that well if we put our data together well, which is what we're really working on doing right now.
Yeah, and I assume that the drought's being considered too, the effects of the drought.
It shows up in our data collection, our annual water reports to the state. I think that will be coming up actually with Brian. He'll be able to talk about the water side of surface water.
Okay, Lois?
Thank you. I'm all for database decision making, but I also think communication is something to our residents as they're reading things, again, from other groups who have their own interests to bear and are communicating quite often. And then they read things about down in the valley, and so the information's flying, and just putting out these technical memos and thinking that's okay for now, I disagree. I think we need to do a better job of articulating what we're doing, why we're doing it, where we are, what are these potential options. This discussion we're having here is something that I think is worthy of going out in a video or something so that the public can understand where we are and where we're managing the message versus right now letting people that aren't even in the room with the studies, or some of our consultants are providing information to those groups who are managing our message. I think we got it a little backwards here right now. So, I really want to see with what you've requested in this year's, coming up in the budget, what we're doing. We do not have to have everything buttoned up to wait to communicate. We can communicate right now, and we communicate often and regularly, and that keeps the public at bay, and it helps them understand that maybe some of these other slick videos aren't quite in tune with what the city is doing in a strategic basis. So I really want to push you all to rethink what we're doing here, because it was not a city decision, a council decision to wait to communicate until phase 2. And I'm really against it, actually, when others are communicating now on our behalf. So my thoughts.
We're happy to engage in that's exactly how we should be doing things. So I'll allow the leadership to let me know, I followed what leadership asked me to do, was get it on Participate Prescott, get it on the website, do the information sheets, things like that. So if there's a decision to ramp up, we're more than happy as Water Resource Management to ramp up and work with, our public outreach people here at the city.
What do you two think about communications right now?
I think the sooner the better.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with early and frequent communications. And I'm reminded of a project on the Central Coast that I helped manage. We didn't educate the public adequately, and when the cost became known, the project just died. But someday that has to come back. So I think communication is really essential.
So I think just from what we're hearing here is that perhaps we need to put a new item on next month's agenda that's just talking about the long-term, how we got to where we are now, the budget concerns that have been mentioned, as well as some sort of progress report or agenda in terms of what our communication would look like going forward. Is that
Going forward, like immediately.
right?
I don't want to wait till next fiscal year. Again, when others are telling our story, I read it fascinated at nights. I watch these videos and I'm fascinated with how they know what they know and what they're saying and how they're packaging it. And it's shameful that we're not communicating. And now I understand it was because a decision was made that council wasn't involved with making that decision. So you're hearing 3 right here saying we got to start communicating. And I don't want to wait too long to be able to start that.
Yeah. This is great dialogue, and we do appreciate it. And the decision to break the project into a phase 1, phase 2 wasn't done behind closed doors. It was simply how do we tackle something this large and make sure all of the dominoes are set up correctly to get us to the end goal. And the end goal being what other resources are there that we need to investigate. But you can't answer that question until you know what you have. And so phase 1 was more of an in-depth, what are our obligations? What are our current resources? And looking at the various time horizons and digging into the existing infrastructure, water loss, et cetera. So with that information, and Brian and Leslie, please correct me if I'm wrong, the output of phase 1 is going to provide us more of a roadmap of what to consider. Advanced water purification is something that's on the list to investigate. But what phase 1 is going to tell us is it worth investigating? Is there another option that we should really focus our money right now and our consultant time on investigating? There are a myriad of options, but they're not cost effective for our community. They won't give us the most bang for our buck. We don't really want to waste time now investigating those options that really aren't feasible. We want our consultants now to tell us, with all that you know about our community, with all of the stones turned over and an understanding of what our obligations are, what our sources are, what we have, what's the best options for us to investigate in phase 2 so that we can have actionable items on the backside of that phase 2 output to say, okay, now we can go out to the community with a dialogue that represents a path forward that we might actually take with their input. So it's not that we were holding off on communicating with the public, it's that we're not ready for those in-depth conversations because we don't want to scare people with an advanced water purification concept that we won't pursue. So we want the information to go to them and say, these are viable options, these are the price tags, and this is how we could get there. What do you think? But for right now, I agree. The information sheets, our team has done a great job of putting really good data. The technical memos are not something that I have a hard time understanding there, even being in it. So these have been worked through to be more consumer friendly for the public. But I agree, we can do a better job at getting out there and communicating the information that we do have. But for those further conversations, they belong at the end of phase 2 after we've fully investigated and really have input from council on, are these the paths we should be exploring? But we'll get with Danielle, we'll get our team sat down, and I would love to get this body with maybe some videos and get good information out there to your point. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to comment in summary, as an elected official, my philosophy is that water manages growth. We need to wisely manage our water if we're going to grow sustainably. And we have to be careful that this study doesn't try to turn that around and have growth managing our water. That's what I'm afraid we're doing here.
Mayor.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question for Leslie. I'm assuming from what I think I've heard that we have or will have data to be able to draw a contour map of the bottom of the water-bearing structures in the basin. And knowing the specific yield of the two layers, we'll know how much water is in storage, and therefore we'll know how long it will last based upon current and projected future demands. Is that right?
I don't want to speak out of turn here. Our consultants are engaging in that now. I think we will have something similar to what you're thinking of. I'm not going to guarantee will have exactly what you're speaking to. So it'd be probably poor form on my part to agree and say that's exactly what we're going to have, Councilman Gehring. But you know the workings of a groundwater flow model. It has to have the different horizons of the aquifers. It starts speaking to, what the specific yield is, the transmissivity. There's a lot of different, it's a three-dimensional groundwater flow model. It's using higher mathematics than, say, a water resource management model, which is Excel-based. Yeah.
All right. And then to echo some of what Councilmember Fruworth was concerned about, the test of a groundwater model is when it gets public, because peers are going to review it and find flaws if there are flaws. So that goes back to communication.
I think that's science in the making. Is there's counter arguments to everything, challenges to the science. We're doing our best, using the consultants that the city has worked with for ages. They go way back with us. And that's not saying that they're favoring us in any ways, is that we know they have high skills in the area. They're not just coming on the scene from Montana and building us a model. We have scientists that are working who have helped with the oversight of well drilling in our area. They know the geology. So I appreciate your time today, and there's more work to be done. But the goal is to put the city on a pathway to water management that gets to what you're asking for. Is you want a sustainable, healthy, know where all the data is, what does it mean, stance. You need to be there. And then for the communication side, of course, the city does need to engage in telling what their findings along the way, if it needs to be stepped up. And I was just told information sheets worked. If there needs to be more, then the management team will, let me know how we compile things differently or on a different timetable. We're happy to do it.
And just one more thought on that. By using the AMA model that the department created, we're starting off with a model that has a long history for the area, one that's been used to make a lot of decisions. So we're not just creating a model that's based on what the city is thinking. We're starting off with a baseline model that hopefully has a lot of merit behind it, has a lot of history behind it, and hopefully can make sure that people are ensured that the model is starting off on the right steps, and then it's just a matter of the information that we're plugging into it.
Yeah, thank you for that information.
I just want to thank Leslie and Brian and the rest of the Water Resources crew for all their hard work, and thank you very much.
Next item E, presentation and discussion regarding a proposed supermajority voting requirement for changes to portions of City Code 2-1-8 and water management policy.
Okay, so I don't have a presentation here for you today on this particular item. Our Water Issues Chairperson Rusing requested that staff provide this discussion item to explore changes to voting rules for a requirement of a supermajority of council for votes changes for the following items. Changes to City Code 2-1-8, Part C, Point 1.A, which reads as follows: pursuant to an intergovernmental agreement with, only allows water outside the city limits pursuant to intergovernmental agreements for the federal government or any federal department or agency, Indian tribes, the state of Arizona, any other state or all department, agency, boards, and commissions of this state and any other state, counties, school districts, fire districts, city, towns, and municipal corporations. The city will not enter any intergovernmental agreement for water service outside city limits with water improvement districts or other specially created districts. So that specific language right there. Changes to the city water management policy that would try to remove the water budget from the policy itself. And then I left an open if there was other items that this subcommittee wanted to explore on changes of City 2.1.8 code or water budget to explore that. So with your memo, I went ahead and included the language from 2-1.8 so that you were familiar with that language and how it reads at this point, and then pertinent portions of the water budget related to the water budget so that you understand how it was developed and how it's incorporated in the water code. So the way I envisioned this is that I would turn it over to Chair Rusing at this point, and you can start the discussions on this particular topic.
Thank you, Brian. And I also, for the public, I forgot to recognize former Mayor Phil Good. He's in the house, in the room here. And I would just like to comment that he was highly instrumental in getting our 2022 new water policy passed that replaced the old water policy. And it's been very effective at managing our water because my stance is that water should manage growth so that we grow wisely. And I was also on council and instrumental in getting this passed. And it passed council 5-2. There were 2 council members that voted against it. But what concerns me is these critical elements can be changed with just 4 votes. For example, Stringfield Ranch, under the old water policy, was outside the city limits, outside our water service area. It was outside the general plan, yet council was going to run water and sewer out there, and through an annexation. And the annexation was voted down, but then the developer went to the county and formed the developer stayed in the county, but then the city turned around and formed a water improvement district with that private developer, which was actually a default annexation. So that's why it's obviously a loophole that can be exploited, and it doesn't exactly say it the right way in the memo, but I think that, because right now we're forming a water improvement district with the county to bring in, to fix up the water for Mountain Club, which is fabulous, because it is going to prevent water loss, and they're going to improve their water service to the Mountain Club community. So they formed a water improvement district. So in a nutshell, I would like to see some discussion here and maybe advance a change to our water policy that requires a supermajority vote on 2 critical items. No water outside the city limits without annexation, because that's what happened with the AED development agreement. We're providing water outside the city limits, way outside the city limits, to Section 33. And as a result, we were also agreed to provide all the infrastructure, the easements, to provide wet utilities out there. And now there's a huge lawsuit over it. And it's something we shouldn't have agreed to in the first place. So the city charter doesn't govern the citizens, it governs us, the government. And it's supposed to protect the taxpayer, protect the taxpayer dollars, protect the citizens from lawsuits. And so this is something that we've needed to do for a long time, I think, to make our water policy more effective. And if we can just require a supermajority vote if we're going to change the policy to allow water outside the city limits, and change the policy to allow water improvement districts to be formed with private parties and LLCs. So with that, does anyone have any comments?
Thank you, Mary. I have a question for legal staff. What legislative process would be involved to hypothetically require, say, 6 votes to change the water management policy?
So as it relates to the water policy itself, you guys can certainly agree that you want to have a supermajority to the water policy, but ultimately what we're looking at is an ordinance. And so your ordinance, a new council can come along and just change the ordinance with a regular vote. So it's not a definitive moving forward. It is just what this group and this body would decide to do that they want as far as their water management policy, but that policy could equally change later on with a new ordinance.
Lois?
So in that regard, because that was what I was thinking when I was doing the pre-work for this, was it could be changed, next year. Would it be best, if you're trying to protect the public as the goal here, to have this be, to pursue this via charter amendment, where the public has the right to say yes or no?
I think you could certainly do that, and then, but that's bringing your water policy into your charter as well. That's a decision that this body would have to make, and it's certainly something that legal could look into a little bit further to see what the implications would be on both sides of that.
I'm glad you're bringing up the charter, because that was phase 2 of this. Phase 1 was to get the water policy changed to require supermajority vote for those 2 items, and then get it into the charter so that it would be ironclad, and the voters would have the say and give more control to the voters as to how to manage their water supply. And the reason why I'm concerned is lately the state legislature has been passing a lot of very preemptive, aggressive policies, removing local control, bypassing city council, citizen committees, less transparency, less public input. I've noticed that's been happening suddenly for the last couple of years. And I think it's due to the home builder, realtor, developer, multi-billion-dollar lobby. And, that's very hard to fight. But we can use our charter. It's a great instrument, a great tool to manage our growth in such a way that we'll grow sustainably and in a resilient way, and be prepared for things like the drought and future growth. Any comments? Lois?
Yes, so I understand where you're going with that. It would be something that we would eventually, an ordinance would be insufficient. So, okay, I get that. The second thing that I thought was interesting in the background cover sheet is, protecting the removal of a water budget from policy. And my watch out with that, as I was thinking through it, that if I wanted to figure out how to do what I wanted to do, and I had the votes on council, I would just, if you passed that, I would just make the water budget as big as I possibly could make it. And I would also exploit the current provision that allows us to have rollover for up to 2 years. And I would add all of that up, and I would be able to do whatever I wanted if I had control of the votes. So that's my concern right now, is just saying removing of the water budget, that we won't allow you to do it. There's still ways of working around it if you had the votes of council. So I get the intention. I didn't spend enough time figuring out how do we work around
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions, but I don't know if we could put a definitive number, lock it into the charter. I don't think that would be a good idea. So you're right, there's always some loopholes, but maybe we could work on, tightening up the water budget so that we don't have those loopholes.
Something like, for me, the carryovers up to 2 years, if you set your water budget really high, like mostly we've been 25. The one time we set it at 50 was because we had some big developments coming in, and then it turned out they didn't come in. So, but we were trying not to put all the other smaller single-family homes, going through exception processes. So we did it once. But if you were to, for me, try and think through over how many years now? 3 years, 4 years we've been doing water budgets? 25 has seemed to be a workable number with carryover. And I wonder if the carryover should sunset in the policy. Because
I
right
think
now
that's
it's
a good
unlimited
number.
up until 2 years, and you just need to set a couple of big ones, and you got enough carryover to do whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah, use it or lose it.
There's got to be a certain point where you lose it. And I don't think we're codified right now in the water policy with that thought. So that's worthy of more dialogue, I think.
Yeah. Any comments from the public?
Yes, Mayor.
Feel good?
Feel good, 3022 South Park here in Prescott. Nice to be able to address the Subcommittee on Water Issues again. I think as you debate all these different changes that have to be made as development progresses, I think it makes it pretty clear that trying to put this into the city charter would be a very difficult thing to do, because you'd have to include the water policy in there. And anytime you try to change the water policy for very good reasons, you're going to have to put it on an election. That would be very difficult. But I think a good first step would be this attempt to go with some type of a supermajority. Now, supermajorities are commonly defined as 75% or more, but that's not required. It just has to be more than a majority. So it could be 5 votes, it could be 6 votes. 6 votes puts it into about 81%, so that's pretty high. But think about you've got 7 members of the council. So if somebody wants to kind of manipulate this situation to their advantage on a future council with maybe a very strong pro-development stance, then they just have to figure out when somebody's going to be on vacation. And then they bring the issue to a vote. And that way, only one person out of the 6 remaining, or you'd have to get a unanimous out of 6. So you have to define what number it's going to be. Just using the term supermajority doesn't define what the number is. So it'd have to be probably 5 or 6. I don't know, my recommendation probably would be 5. 6 is a pretty high number to get everybody to agree and to understand what this water policy is all about. We had an ad hoc water policy committee that met for couple of years, and you had some pretty smart people on there, and they never did figure out how the water policy worked or how it was going to work. Those water improvement districts, including Stringfield Ranch, are in the county, so they're outside the jurisdiction of the city. Stringfield Ranch was able to get the county to create a water improvement district, which then did an end run around our policy at the time. Mountain Club also was in the county. So, they had to go through a very specific process that took them almost a year or so to be able to get that water improvement district created. So I think there's a real dichotomy between those two water improvement districts. One was purely for growth and development of a residential planned area development. The other one was trying to solve a lot of their leakage problems they had in this very, very old water infrastructure. So I think the most reasonable step would to be move forward with a supermajority definition by the council now. And I think you have to think long and hard about putting this into the city charter, because we can't predict what the future may be, and it finds out that we have to do something because the state takes away local control, and then you can't do anything until you create a special election and be able to explain to the community and the voters why it's needed. Mm-hmm. So those things I think all need to be considered as you adopt this change in policy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today.
Thank you, Mayor Phil. Yeah, good points. In the past, supermajority was 5-2 versus 6-1. So it's 6-1 to pass, 5-2 to fail. And that's how it worked with the annexation for Stringfield. But I think that we need to give the voters a say in how they want their community to grow. And the main reason is they haven't had a say, and we've been using development agreements. Currently, we have $100 million in debt thanks to these development agreements that allow us to give the developers wet utilities and easements on the backs of the taxpayers, where the developers should have more skin in the game and pay for those improvements to their own private property. I've never seen it done anywhere else. Even in our charter, on page 2, it says developers should pay for their own utilities, easements, and whatever else infrastructure that they need for their developments. But somehow, since it just says shall, it's interpreted, well, we can still pay for them to do it. So I think that we need to look at this, start the conversation. Time is of the essence, but we need to have some public input on this, get the ball rolling, and protect the taxpayers from unregulated, unmanaged growth, which requires water. So we need to manage our water better, and we can do that with our water policy. And that's why I think we need critical supermajority votes on some of the critical elements of this water policy. And then I think if it's carefully worded, we can put it on the ballot and let these elements be decided by the voters, whether they want to do it or not. Any comments?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's premature to ask legal to put together a draft based on the water management policy, but eliminating those parts that could be troublesome in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know they got a lot on their plate, and we're doing a lot of charter amendments, but that's something that I think we can explore, start with the basic water policy and then have a conversation about the charter. Lois?
The only thing that I was, in doing the pre-reading, I was kind of struggling with, and we brought up both of the neighborhoods, when I was looking at 218C1A, where it says the city will not enter any intergovernmental agreement for water service outside city limits with water improvement districts or other specially created districts. And I was actually sitting here going, Mountain Club is forming a new water improvement district, and we're good with them doing that because they're going to be improving the pipes and the infrastructure. They're investing in it, and that's going to be less waste and loss of water. And so I was like, that's what we want. We've all been excited. We've all been on council supportive of that. But the way I read this, very black and white, it says we can't do that.
Yeah, that was
So I think we have to fix that. It's for communities that we're currently serving, if they want to provide a water improvement district to eliminate or reduce loss and waste, I think it's in all of our best interests to say yes. So that struck me as we got to work on that.
Yeah, that was a miscommunication. It should have been private parties or LLCs. We have no problem forming a water improvement district with another governmental entity.
And that we've already been providing water to them. We have a long history of water to Mountain Club. We had no history of water to Stringfield Ranch.
Yeah, and that's why we need the supermajority vote to discern those and just tighten up these loopholes that can be exploited with just a 4-vote simple majority, because every 2 years, we have an election, and there's always 4 vacancies, at least, sometimes 5. So we need a water policy that is a lot more stable. And that the only way to do that, I think, is to get some of these elements in the charter and let the voters decide on the ballot what they want to do to manage their water. So I think we've got some direction here. Just start with looking at the water policy, maybe start a study session with a discussion about another charter amendment, and get some public input and transparency going too on this. Okay, thank you.
Next item F, presentation and discussion regarding the 2025 annual water withdrawal and use report.
All right, so our next item is just going over a summary of the annual report that we do to Arizona Department of Water Resources to cover our requirements for being in the active management area, being an assured water supplier, and for that, and to cover the existing groundwater codes. We provide information to Arizona Department of Water Resources. And that information is good. It gives us an idea of how much water we're using, how we're using it, and where we're at any given time. So I just wanted to go over that with you quickly and let you know where we're at, and we can talk about it. So just to start off, and I think most of everybody knows we talk in acre feet here when we're talking about reporting of water. So an acre foot is 325,851 gallons, and a little representation to show you that it is a lot of water. The second slide that I put in for you is really just for your own benefit. I think it's just a nifty slide that I think Leslie put this together a few years back when she was working on some projects, and it's a good representation. It gives a nice visual of the city's water supplies, how we use the water, and how it goes. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but I just wanted to put it in there, so you might have seen it in other places too. But our water supply slide here that we're going to next, we're going to cut this into 3 pieces, and we're going to start off by looking at our production wells and our potable supplies. Then we're going to look at our alternative water supplies, our treated effluent, and what we do with that and how we report it. And then our third water source is our surface water and how that works. So I won't spend a lot of time on this slide because we're going to chop it into 3 pieces. So let's go into production wells. So our production wells, we have 2 well-filled locations, one in Chino Valley, 5 wells, and one at the airport with 3 wells. Right now, as of 2025, we had an active 8 wells within our system, and 6 of those were used for production in 2025. So all of our potable deliveries are served by pumping water from the ground to our customers. Just want to make sure that point is understood. And then we can qualify it as groundwater and surface water, recharged water. There's those aspects of it, but we get all our water from the ground. We don't treat any water from the lakes and put it into the potable system or anything of that nature. It's all coming from the ground. So our total pump from those wells in our well field last year was 7,293 acre feet, and we had a total deliveries of 6,763 acre feet.
Yeah,
So
let me
yes.
interrupt here just to get a grasp on the numbers. We pumped 7,293. What's the maximum that we're allowed to pump?
We'd have to look at our assured water supply, the number, and to get that total number. But right now in our assured water supply, I believe we have 16,000 plus some change. Water available that includes groundwater. It includes how much water we have from a treated effluent that we could put in. It includes our long-term storage credits that we have accumulated over the years, and it has a running average of the amount of surface water that we can produce in any given year. Mm-hmm. And all that water put together gets you to that 16,000 number that's in our assured water supply.
I remember that number, but what's the number for the actual pumping of the groundwater, the actual pumped water?
Well, the actual pumped water is at this point in time, 7,293.
How much we're allowed to pump?
So through the course of having all of our water supplies, the ability to recharge surface water, the ability to recharge effluent, long-term storage credits that we've left in the aquifer, and our groundwater, which I think that might be the number that you're trying to get at, is the groundwater allowance.
Isn't it like 9,000?
9,000. It increases. We have some allowance because we have preliminary plats as they become available, or as they become final plats. That number increases by a half acre foot. I can get you the full number. It's 9,000 and some change is that groundwater allowance.
9,000 acre feet a year.
Yeah, and it can go up as we have a number of preliminary plats that we can get credit for groundwater too.
Yeah, because in my head, I separate wet water from paper water.
Sure, but in reality, though, we do take the surface water and we're recharging it. So it's real water that we're putting into the ground, and we're taking effluent and we're recharging. It's real water we're putting into the ground. So our deliveries to our customers. So last year, in 2025, we delivered 6,763 acre feet of water. And then we also delivered a little bit of water to other service rights. So these named service rights here are, we have a master meter, we provide them water, and they provide the water to their customers. And it came out to about 40 acre feet. So ADWR, the way that they account for this is that they take our potable supplies, our total pump number of 7293 acre feet, and they subtract the water that we deliver to other rights. And that left 7253, and that's what they call the potable supply. And we'll go over it a little bit more, but it affects our lost and unaccounted for percentage rate. So it's an interesting way that they do it, but that's the way they account for it. So moving on, we have our treated effluent. So we have 3 treatment facilities, one over at the airport water reclamation facility. We have the Sundog wastewater treatment plant, and then there's a small package treatment plant at the Hacienda wastewater, or the Hacienda golf course. So combined treated effluent from all 3 of these facilities was 4,655 acre feet in 2025. Of that water, we did direct delivery of effluents of 2,412 acre feet. That included the golf courses, construction water, some industrial uses with contracts that we have. And then the rest of the water we delivered to our recharge facility over at the airport, and that was 2,243 acre feet. So that water went directly into the recharge facility for replenishment of the aquifer. The next water supply we have is surface water. So as you know, we have 2 reservoirs in our assured water supply. We have Watson Reservoir and Willow Reservoir. Way we use this water is that we can open up the valves, and the water will go through a series of channels and open channels over to a gate that we can direct it out of the wash, and then move it into a pipe system. They'll take it over to our recharge basins over at the airport facility. We have a recharge period. It starts on April 1st, and it goes through November 31st. Sorry about that. There should be a 1 in front of that, or a 3 in front of that 1. So that period goes from April 1st through November 31st. That's our recharge period. We can open up the gate and allow water to go into our recharge facility during that period. And then, this is a great slide. The third thing it says is that we recharged 21 acre feet last year in 2025. That's not accurate. We recharged 0 acre feet in 2025. We recorded 21 acre feet at our recharge basin. We meter and we record how much water comes in, and 21 acre feet did come in, but we never opened the gate. We never opened the gate. So the water that actually went to the recharge facility, that 21 acre feet, was just direct runoff from surface, from precipitation events, things of that nature got recorded. But it's not considered surface water because it did not come from our lakes. So we're going to be updating our report to take the 21 acre feet out from the water that we're claiming at this point. So some of the numbers that I'm going to show you a little later, they're going to be slightly off by 21 acre feet. We're going to redo that calculation. But yes, we can only legally account for water as recharge that comes from our surface water sources, water that just directly falls below the gate level and gets into our system and finally makes its way over to the recharge basins, which apparently there is some that happen every year. Can't be counted, so we have to make that slight adjustment.
Lois?
So question, because there's a lot of excitement about the possibility of stormwater recharge, which is exactly what this was, runoff from storms,
Right.
hitting our pipes and getting into the recharge facility.
Okay.
And
It will not.
it's really good. I mean, what's wrong with 21 acre feet? But you're telling us that if we invested in a stormwater recharge, we're not going to get any credits for
Not
it.
right now.
It's just the right thing to do. Is that what I'm?
Right, yeah. It would be the right thing to do. I tend to agree with that. There's ways we can recharge the basin with stormwater.
But any investments of dollars we make into a stormwater recharge will not be something that will come back to us in water we can use.
Yeah.
It would just be the right thing to do if you wanted to spend your money that way.
So
am I getting that?
You're kind of getting it. And I would say that there's several ways to skin a cat. So if you could direct more stormwater to the lakes, that would be a way to do it. However, And then there's been a lot of push on the legislative front in the state to try to see if they can gain, if we could gain some type of credits for stormwater. So if we put ourselves in a position where we're able and ready to do that when it comes along the pipeline, if we're feeling that trend's going to take over, it might be some advantages of moving forward with it at this point. Your instincts are right. Right now, stormwater, we can't simply just, let's say, create a pipe from the middle of town where we got a lot of surface water coming in and take it directly to the recharge basin and get credit for it. It would not be allowed with the current rules and regulations.
I appreciate your thought about this is an area to go work with legislation.
Yeah.
Because if everybody could get credit, then there might be interest in investing in the infrastructure to fuel it.
Yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's our surface water. The end of the story, we did 0, not 21 for last year. Okay. Yeah.
Did you have a
Yeah, Jim.
comment?
Brian, I just have a question. You may not have the answer, but I just called up a picture on my phone from April 23, and we had hiked to the backside of the Watson Lake Dam, and there was a lot of water coming out of that dam that year. Do you happen to recall what the recharge was for that year?
For surface water, I think it was 3,800 acre feet. What we did is in August, by the end of August, we had closed the gate, and that ended our recharge season, 2.5 months early, because we had so much water coming in from both Watson and Willow. We basically, we have a surface water threshold of, I believe it's 3,800. I feel bad about throwing numbers out there, but I think it's 3,800 acre feet is the maximum that we can, surface water that we can send to the recharge facilities. And we hit that in August of 2023 due to the large amount of surface water we had that year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So use of recharge. So again, we're taking recharge from our surface water sources when we can, and we're taking it from our treated effluent and bringing it into our recharge basin. And the first thing we have to do is we have to account for our non-recoverable recharge. So this is a Prop 401 charter regulation, which says that, for these Prop 401 areas, these big development annexation areas, that we're not going to use that water that they return through their sewer and that we treat is not going to be used for any future growth or any other type of need from the city. We're going to leave it in the aquifer. So what we do is we take a look at the number of potable accounts from the Prop 401 areas. And then we do an equation where we look at our average rate of returns, about 65% to the wastewater facilities. And we calculate out a volume of water that we're going to separate out, and it's going to go to a non-recoverable account. We actually have an account with ADWR where we report this and we say, this is water that went to our recharge facility, but we're going to leave it in the aquifer. We can't recover it once we put it in there. So for 2025, that number came out to 139 acre feet, and we subtracted that out of our recharge. The second thing is offset of groundwater pumping or recovered water. So in any given year, we can offset our groundwater pumping with that water that we're replenishing into the aquifer. The surface water, if we had any, is required that it be recovered the year that it was put in. So any surface water that we have in any given year goes to offset our groundwater pumping in that year. This year we had 0. Treated effluent can also be used to offset groundwater pumping, or it can be used and converted to long-term storage credits. We have our choice on treated effluent, on how we want to do that. For 2025, we split the treated effluent basically 50-50. So we, sorry about that. We took 1,111 acre feet and we used it for recovery in this year to offset our groundwater pumping. And we took 993 acre feet and we converted that to long-term storage credits. So we have the ability to fluctuate with that. 50-50 is what we've been doing for the last few years. Some of our long-term work that we're doing and those projections we talked about earlier, 10, 25, and 50 years, we're using the 50-50 split to develop those curves and that information right now. It's after we look at that information, if we decide we want to do something a little different based on what we're seeing, we can always change that around, but it would be good. That's one thing with the long-term water management is allow us to figure out what's the best bang for our buck to do with our treated effluent. So lost and unaccounted for water. So again, this is where we're coming back. Our potable supplies of 7,253 acre feet reduces that water that we deliver to other rights. Our potable deliveries of 6763 acre feet, sorry, I should say AF on the back of it. And it's basically percent difference between those two numbers is your lost and unaccounted for water. This year, that percentage came out to 6.76%. Last year, we were hovering a little over 9%. So one of the things that we're working with our Public Works Infrastructure Group is we're trying to figure out, okay, what's, these are pretty big differences, a couple, 2%, a couple hundred acre feet. And, trying to figure out, is it just simply we had bigger water breaks, spilled out more water that year? It was fairly out of our control. Is there stuff that we could control? Is there things that we could fix to make it work better? So again, that we're working with our infrastructure group. It's actually part of the long-term water management plan to look at how we can reduce loss and unaccounted for water.
Yes, Jim.
So Brian, I just have an observation that with my old water meter, we were burning maybe 2,200 gallons a month. With the new one, it's more like 2,800. So what that says is that the old meter was slow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is exactly what we've been seeing and been expecting as we move forward with our meter program.
So that you would naturally expect that to reduce your unaccounted for water.
True. Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Very good observation. Okay. I think I went the wrong way. Sorry about that. Let me see. Let's go. Okay. So next slide, just a series of comparisons on our annual report from 2025 and 2024. Amazing total amount pumped, 1 acre foot difference between the 2 years. Varies by a lot of factors every year and whatnot, but we were fairly consistent over the last 2 years, that's for sure. Total deliveries, a couple hundred acre feet more delivered this year. Could that be because of our meter system and more efficient delivery? I don't know. I guess it could be, but we're only about 50% into it. Maybe. It's something we'll be looking at over the next couple of years, and we'll see if we can continue that trend. Total treated effluent, very, very similar. Total surface water, in a nutshell, 21 should be a 0, and you can see that all the rest of the numbers going down are going to be really, really influenced by the surface water. So our total recharge, that basically 1,000 CFS difference there is all surface water we didn't get to put into the system. Non-recoverable recharge, that's our Prop 401 area. You can see our Prop 401 areas are growing. It was 125 acre feet last year. It's 139 acre feet this year. It's going to continue to grow, and it'll start to become a fairly significant aspect of our water resources as we move on. A significant amount of our new growth area is in Prop 401 areas, AED, deep well areas. And so that influences how we can use our effluent. It's going to continue to grow as more and more houses are developed in that area. Recharge recovered, you can see the difference between there is basically the surface water. Long-term storage credits were pretty much the same between last year and this year because we're about that 50% breakthrough. And total groundwater pumped, withdrawn, again, that surface water, we recover it in the year that we put it in. So it reduces what technically is called groundwater pumped. And basically, so, we're quite a bit higher in groundwater pumped this year because we couldn't offset it with surface water. And then our total withdrawal fees have increased because, again, they're based on the groundwater pump, $2 per acre foot. So we had to pay ADWR a little bit more money this year. The next slides are just really just just to show how our potable deliveries are distributed out based on the reporting categories that we report to ADWR. Single family being by far the biggest customer that we have, 57%, followed by commercial, and then multifamily, and then some turf uses account for by far the majority of water that we deliver. Residential use, just the breakdown. Yes, we use about 86% of our residential water goes to single family residential, and about 14% goes to multifamily. Deliveries by category, residential, again, 67% of our water use, non-residential, 27%, and turf, about 6%. And one thing that Herb Dishlip, our consultant, always reminds us of is non-residential is only 30% of our usage, but when you look at it in terms of our accounts, it's much less. So there's a lot of water usage per account on non-residential. It's something that we need to don't forget about. Even though it's only 27%, there's an ability to gain quite a bit of savings because we have sometimes they're larger water users. So anytime you can gain savings with them, it really helps out.
Yeah, I have a question about the large water users. How many of those do we have in town? I know one for sure.
I need to go to the report and look at it. Again, I don't want to be throwing numbers out that aren't accurate. But from a definition of ADWR, I can give you the exact number and send it to the whole community so you can see. I want to say it's around 10, but again, let me dig that number out of the report and I can send you that exact number.
Because that would include like golf courses?
Yeah, it really includes the big turf users. That's the definition for ADWR.
Because when you said turf, I was thinking, I didn't know we had that much turf, but you know, if you include the golf courses,
Yeah.
because we have 3
Yeah.
in the city limits.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Is there 4? What's the 4th one?
Prescott Lakes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, 4.
Prescott Lakes, Capitol Canyon,
Yep. And the 2 at Antelope.
and Antelope. You count Antelope as 2?
The 2 courses, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I will get you, let me get you the exact number on that. I'll shoot you guys an email. Sorry, I keep going backwards. Let's see. Okay, and then this last slide, just as a comparison slide between 2024 and 2025. Slight increase in residential usage could be that's pretty much in line with what we would expect. 9.1% in commercial usage. Multifamilies down a tiny bit. And the governmental, we used 27% less water in the governmental. I haven't got my head wrapped around that particular savings yet. So I will work through that and see if we can kind of dig what's happening there that kind of gave us a bunch of savings on the governmental end. So I'll look into that and I'll let you know as soon as I can kind of find a few things that might have accounted for that rather large reduction over a 1-year basis. So that is basically, that's my report for you at this point in time. If there's any other questions or anything I can provide, I'd be more than happy to try.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you. I just would like to make the interesting observation that, you know, we had a really good rainy year, but then it really messed with our statistics and made it look like, oh no, we're not recharging anything. But we didn't need to because it rained.
Yeah. It's
Next item, 4A, presentation discussion regarding proposed water legislation impacting the city of Prescott and surrounding areas.
So I put this quick update together a couple months ago, and then I've been checking with Alexis Sustorf, who's helps the city out with all kinds of efforts, but she's really good with water. And it's so funny because I didn't have to change a thing. It's really gone stagnant through the state legislature at this point. So this will be super quick. NAMWA, Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, helps us, is an association that tracks water bills, and so it's a big, it's a great resource for the city. They started off by tracking 69 water bills. That number's probably even higher now because we were adding them as we were going through. But as of April 24th, all the bills are dead except for 2. There's 3 active bills that I'll talk about today. 2 of those bills NAMWA took a position on, and 1 of them we did not. So there'll be 3 we're talking about. But all but 2 that we were tracking are dead. And then NAMWA opposed both of the bills that are still alive. So these are 4 dead bills that we thought were interesting at stormwater recharge mapping, and that one's actually the mapping bill, but maybe a precursor to getting some type of regulation for stormwater to be able to be credited for water sources, possibly. Anyway, Alexis has notified me that all of these bills are dead. They're not going anywhere this year. So. And we talked about those bills, so I won't spend any time. If you have any question about any of them, I'll let you know. But 2 bills that did actually make it all the way to the governor's office that were vetoed, Domestic Water Improvement District for hauling and the Water Improvement Program for hauling. NAMWA opposed both of these bills. It just feels in the position of a municipality that hauling water is not a solution to the water problems. Exactly. So I put the governor's wording in her letter there so that you can have that. But those bills were vetoed. I don't think they'll be coming back this year. Obviously, I think they need a supermajority in order to get them. So, and then bills still in play. So. State Bill, Senate Bill 1202, Supply and Demand Assessment Groundwater. We opposed this bill in NAMWA because what we've been trying to do is create a consistent a strategy of oppose or favor when it comes to reports done by Arizona Department of Water Resources. If you ask this department to do more, give them a source of funding so they can get more people or get more resources to do more, because they're already struggling just to do what they're mandated to do at this point in time. And this was another bill that basically provided and said, do more, but we're not going to give you any funding to do more. And so we oppose that bill for basically that reason. At this point, it's passed through the Senate. It's been working through the House. Nothing has changed in 6 weeks since I put this slide together. It's still just sitting for final vote in the House. So I don't know if it's going to make it through to the governor or not at this point. I'll let you know if it did next month when we meet. HB, House Bill 2100, small land subdivision requirements. NAMWA opposed this. This was going to cut out small subdivisions or small subdivisions and land plots, and allowed them to circumnavigate through the water requirements of assured water certificate. And we oppose that on just the general principle that we need more, we need more kind of overview of water and development, not really finding other exemptions at this point. But it passed the House, and it's working through the Senate. It's in the same situation as the first bill. It's just been sitting in the Senate for about 6 weeks now, so we'll see where it goes. And then the third bill, which NAMWA did not take a position on at the time, was the McMullen Valley groundwater transportation. It doesn't affect us, but it doesn't mean it isn't important to Prescott, because this is a bill that's going through to see if it could if water can be basically. Sorry about that. Be basically transferred from rural areas to urban areas, and so it's very important for Prescott and for the AMA to be watching what's going on with this bill. It's passed the House, and again, it's just kind of stagnant in the Senate at this point. So we'll continue to look at that and evaluate. That's the update I have for you. We were really just kind of concentrating on 3 bills at this point in time, and they haven't really been moving. So.
Yeah, I think basically we can conclude that there was basically no meaningful water legislation passed that would protect our groundwater or anything encouraging conservation. And a lot of preemptive legislation. I'd like to make a comment on under the dead bills of interest, the last one, HB 4030, that was going to require a moratorium on the cities and towns' abilities to manage their own fees, taxes, rates, increases. Last I heard, they were going to try and get it on the ballot. So I need to double check on that.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you. It's been quite a marathon. Thank you, Brian. Okay, anything else? Okay. Jim?
I think maybe Mayor Hood has something on this item.
Did you have anything to comment on, Mayor Phil?
Well, I will say that monitoring that McMullen Valley and Butler Valley transportation bills that are still somewhat alive, they create a very, very dangerous precedent. You've got one organization that owns about 40% of all the land in McMullen Valley, and they want to take that water onto their land and be able to send it to Phoenix. Well, that means all the remaining owners in that valley will see the water table drop dramatically and make their property almost worthless. So that's the kind of egregious bills that are coming forward to provide more money into, or money, yeah, probably money, but more water into the metropolitan areas at the detriment of the rural groundwater communities. So we have to work very hard to protect the rural groundwater rights for the people who live there and not give everything to Phoenix and Tucson for their long-term growth, whether it's for data centers or these other high water using developments.
Very good points. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.